What's going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome to another episode of Tuffy Talk, y'all. And one that I'll be honest with y'all right now, it's a little bit nostalgic, man. It is awesome to be back here once again for once in a very long time, y'all. Again, for those who have been a long time followers of Tuffy Talk, you would know that the original two members of Tuffy Talk were myself, Lane Smith, and my best friend here, Macon Adams, man. And it's been and just to kind of get a little bit of a story. So first of all, this is Tuffy Talk After Dark, another Tuffy Talk After Dark series. So again, it's an extension off of the Tuffy Talk Live Show from December 11th. So if anything we don't cover here was probably covered during the live show, so make sure to go and check that out, y'all, and come right back here. But Macon, you and I were just talking a little bit before we started talking, hit the record button, but I kind of told the story on the live show as well. But my wife and I, we were talking last week, and we're like, it's been a long time since Macon and I, just the two of us, have recorded an episode. Just the two of us, man. And so I was like, all right, Macon, we're gonna do Tough Talk After Dark because there's so much going on right now, and we're just gonna do it. I know, so much, and we'll just do it, just two of us, man. And so first thing I gotta say, dude, it's kind of funny, ever so often that first ever episode we did kind of comes up, which I know you and I were also talking as well about how we're coming up on 3 years of Tuffy Talk, and thinking about how I used to edit the episodes myself, and in watching those first couple episodes, you can probably notice that, and and that's okay, and just thinking, I still remember, I think it was either a basketball game that we live tweeted for the first ever time when we had maybe 20 followers, something like that. And, and we're lucky enough now, man. We're sitting here at over 16,000 followers on Twitter alone, man. Over 8,200 subscribers on YouTube, man. And it's awesome, dude. And again, I'm not if you can't tell, I'm saying all that not as look at us, man. We're big bad and Mr. Awesomeness. No, it really is the coolest thing, and it is such a humbling thing for sure. And that so many people care. Well, what we have to say, what we're doing, here, and support what we're doing. And tell me, Macon, could you ever imagine, when I the first time I called you back in, what was it, December of 2020, being like, hey man, what would you say to starting an Insta YouTube channel? And then here we are, probably almost 3 years from that date that call happened. Yeah. And over 16,000 followers, man, over 8,200 subscribers, man. It really is awesome, dude.
No, I think it's been really fun. I think it's the part because it's something that for us, we just like talking state stuff, man. It's just, it's fun. It's a way to kind of decompress and enjoy just sharing some excitement of things we love about NC State athletics. And it's cool when you see how it's grown and people enjoy it with you. And, I would love to see that continue to grow. But this is, you mentioned how much exciting stuff is going on at NC State right now. And, it just kind of adds to that. So I'm looking forward to what we got to talk about tonight. And, just really thankful for it.
Amen. But now that we've gotten all the gayness and all the happiness and joy out of the way, Macon, I got to be a little bit honest with you, man. I'm very disappointed in you.
Why is that? Why is it
bugged. I'm really bugged. I'm not. I don't really understand what you're thinking or what you're doing. It honestly disgusts me, Macon.
I'm sorry,
how in goodness name can you have brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts at number 3 on your list? What are you thinking? What are you doing, man? Come on, dude.
Every time I see people comment, I'm actually really surprised at how many people have brown cinnamon sugar as number 1.
Oh, it's the best.
I don't know. I like fruit, so maybe that's part of it. But I like fruit style desserts. For me, that's just a me thing. But I will say, when we had the live show last week, I remember I had the toaster out and I was putting Pop-Tarts in and trying them out.
Yeah,
the brown cinnamon sugar one, when you heated it up, that one tasted had the greatest change, in my opinion. Cold, it was kind of but when you heat it up, it kind of had a nice warm cinnamon flavor to it, and that just felt more homey, more hearty.
Yeah,
and I can get that. But if you're just talking about just open up a packet, eating a Pop-Tart, I just don't see it being better than a blueberry or strawberry Pop-Tart, but that's just me. So. Yeah. It's okay to be wrong, Layton. It's okay to be wrong.
I know, dude. Well, and it was funny because I was thinking, like, what would be a great way to do like a little cliffhanger thing? It's like I would love to, like, kind of like copy that, like take that piece out and like post it on social media, be like, man, Layton really got into it making, like, if you want to see what Layton lit into making about, you go check it out. And I was like, actually, I do have a problem here, man. That so many people, I mean, 4 different people, Macon, Lindsay, Kens, and Nick, all had brown sugar cinnamon at number 3. But the biggest gripe,
there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that, though.
Oh gosh, but there's also a reason that myself and Michael also have it as number 1. But now the biggest gripe has got to be Greg not even having brown sugar cinnamon even.
He has Apple Jacks on there.
I know.
Apple
he has strawberry, then banana bread, then Apple Jacks. I'm like,
Greg just did that to just be, stir the pot. He doesn't even care. He doesn't even care.
That's what I'm thinking too. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like,
he doesn't even know what a Pop-Tart is. So.
I'm like, Greg, look at me dead in my eye and tell me honestly that Apple Jacks is a top 2 cereal for brown sugar cinnamon or blueberry strawberry. Like, no, get out of here. Or s'mores. No, get out of here.
We can't turn this into a Pop-Tart episode though, Layton.
No, but dude,
Greg, this is really bothering you.
I know, because luckily enough, we've gotten a lot of responses from that tweet, from that graphic.
I know.
I thought it was hilarious. But
I think it's, to me, the Pop-Tarts with the blueberry, strawberry, even the wild berry, I like those. So
yeah,
it's just me, man. But that brown cinnamon sugar, I was like, oh, this is different when you heat it up, man. This is good stuff. So
100%. Yeah. But anyway, Macon, so let's jump into it a little bit here. So obviously, one of the biggest things right now for all of NC State fans is their eyes are glued right now to the transfer portal. And so I know that NC State actually leads the ACC right now. I think with that, if I'm not mistaken, 19 players that have entered their name in the transfer portal. And
I saw it at one point. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, again, I think a funny thing because I think for the last 2 or 3 years, State's had one of the lowest turnarounds in the transfer portal in terms of the number of players that have entered their name in the transfer portal in the ACC. And so, I think a lot of people might say, is the NC State culture not what it used to be? And I think that the main thing that probably has a lot to do with that is the fact that now the Savage Wolf NIL is not guaranteeing $25,000 to every single scholarship player for the 2024 season and going forward, which I think is making a big difference in this. Because at least if you're saying to yourself, well, if I'm gonna be a backup or if I'm gonna be on the bench most of the game, at least I could say that I'm making a pretty significant amount of change, while sitting on the bench. That definitely helps. Now again, keep in mind it's just your minimum guarantee $25,000, but it could be more. So I think that probably has a lot to do with it, but also too with the fact that I think that. I honestly think that, and I'm just going to say this, there's been a lot of talks of, the fact that Doran, when a long time ago, he said, when I turn 55, I'm going to retire and I'm going to go open my own, bait and tackle shop and, go live out the rest of my life. And he's 53 right now, 52, 53 right now. So he only has,
I think he's actually 51. If I'm not mistaken. I'm going to look it up real quick, but yeah, I think he's 51.
But I think either way, he still only has, probably 2 or 3, if he sticks to that, 2 or 3 seasons. And I think with what you have right now, 52. With what he's built, he's 52. Okay. Yeah. So, 3 years left, that with the culture he's built, with the players he has, with a young guy like Kevin Concepcion, with the recruiting classes he has coming in, it's built that, I've said it, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we win this championship, man. I'm literally that said that it's bound to happen, man. So I think that has a lot. I think it's kind of like, all right, we need to go strike while the iron's hot. We need to go and just take this foundation and build on it. Would you agree with me there, man?
Yeah, I would 100%. I think they can do it. It's like, why not NC State? I think people are like, oh, well, you're not Clemson, you're not Florida State. I think it can be done. I feel like the Coastal Division, when it was still in existence, had one team like every 7 years, a totally different team winning it or winning the Coastal Division and playing for a championship. Granted, they didn't win it every time, but who's to say State couldn't get in there right now? And I think they're as, in terms of like power rankings, I think they're as high as any team in the ACC in terms of what their future looks like. I think Florida State's probably number one up there. But I think NC State's top 3 or 4 in the ACC right now. And they've got a lot of stuff going for them. And I think that's with how they finished out the season, what Payton Wilson and KC have been able to do this season as well, winning all those national awards. The stability with the coaching staff, I think, is a huge deal too. You're not seeing this. None of the staff is leaving right now. So that's a big deal. And when you have the number one defensive coordinator in the ACC, you can argue that. You have a lot of playing time on the offense that you can offer up to transfers, because right now we've seen a lot of those kind of players. I think if I'm not mistaken, they've only been offense so far. So yeah, to your earlier point, State did have, I think, the most transfers in the portal at the ACC. At one point, they had the most transfers in the country. I think I saw a thing from like just 3-4 days ago. They had like 16 players in there, and I think now it's like close to 20. So, I don't mind it, because to me, the players that were transferring out were players that I thought were like, lower on the depth chart pieces. I think you look at a guy that, to me, the guy that I think that probably hurt the most was a guy like C.J. Clark. But I know some people might get upset about Timmons, might get upset about Clark, some of the guys like that, or Michael Allen sitting out, trying not to play. So, for me, I don't really get too upset about that right this moment. I feel like there's a lot of guys you could bring in talent-wise. I think we've already seen that they could really be immediate contributors that could help raise your floor from a talent perspective and your ceiling, I think, too. So I think if they were guys who were starters that were leaving, which none of them were except for maybe Clark, I'm not really worried about it. I think State staff can get it done. I think particularly with the help of the fans who are really – I think State fans have really shown out in their – the grassroots funding they've done with the NIL stuff with Savage Wolves and Pack of Wolves. It's been really remarkable, and I think that's going to pay off, quite literally. So
before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. Well, and I think that, and you kind of mentioned that, and like Savage Wolves and Pack Wolves, they both have been saying they've seen record amount of donations to the NIL collectives over the last, pretty much ever since the UNC game. And so, only over basically 2 weeks. And I think that it'd be the most beautiful thing if, this coming year, that all the stuff that you've been hearing about, from Reed, from, Savage Wolves, and from Tom Volsey, all these things saying like, if we could bring in the guys that we think we can bring in, it's ACC championship or bust. And if they can not only just bring in these guys, such as maybe the name that's getting thrown around, right, like Noah Rogers, bring in Grayson McCall, bring in some of these other guys, you're setting yourself up beautifully. And then on top of it, if you can go and win the ACC championship, you can say to fans, hey, listen, we took that money and we put it to absolute good use, and we finally got this thing done. So, and because the other thing which I want to say too is that, and we've mentioned this before in the live stream, but just a reminder to everybody, I really do think, and this isn't necessarily an insider info, because I think that, if you watch, the defense close enough, you watch film back, Brandon Cleveland has been absolutely a stud this season, for, being as young as he is. I think only a redshirt freshman. He's a young guy, and he's been super impressive this season. So I think a lot of, CJ Clark leaving is more of just us saying, well, we'd rather hold on to Brandon Cleveland, because this guy's a lot younger, and I wouldn't necessarily say that he's better, but I'm saying he's definitely in the same ballpark. And again, that's not a slight to CJ Clark. It's just, and
he might have a bigger ceiling at this point. To my opinion,
he might have a bigger ceiling. Exactly.
You kind of know what you're getting out of CJ. I don't know how much better CJ is going to get. He's not a bad player at all. I'm not saying that. He's a good player. Absolutely. It's just it's the name of the game. Guys want to get paid now too, and I don't know if CJ Clark would be a clear cut starter. A majority of the minutes. I think it would be very divided, and you would see that. But to your point, Cleveland's a really good player. I think State wanted to make sure they take care of him with NIL stuff this offseason.
So let's jump into some of these transfer portal commits we've got already. So now at least the 4 that we have as of this recording, which again, keep in mind is right after a Tuffy Talk Live Show, Monday, December 11th, 9:34 p.m. And I let you put in the time because literally like in 2 minutes we could get a news that somebody else is committed. But as of right now, between Zeke Correll, the center transfer from Notre Dame, Dante Daniels, the JUCO transfer tight end, Valen Erickson, the offensive tackle transfer from Missouri, and then Wesley Grimes, the wide receiver transfer from Wake Forest. Which one would you say you're the most excited about right now?
Okay, so for me personally, I get excited about skill position players. So I'm excited about Grimes because I know you've got your main 2 guys. I think next season are KC and Collins, right? Mm-hmm. But you never know what they could end up being, and with KC, we already kind of know around, but it's just I think you get Grimes, and now you've kind of got a solid 3 starters you could probably look at there, and you can go from there. You can build on that, and I like that. But I think maybe what's one of the most important foundational piece is Zeke Correll. I mean, he's the guy who is like I think there's a distinction. I get more excited about Grimes. I am just more like fired up. Like, yes, like we've got Correll. Like that's a really critical piece for us. Again, I'm just kind of repeating myself. Foundationally for the offensive line. If you want to win, you got to start in the trenches, and you've got some really good players next year already at the line. If you can keep Peak and Bell at your tackles, that should be probably a strength for NC State next season. And then your guards, like McKay as a guard, that's a really good guard. And then you're probably looking at Anthony. Because
can McKay come back?
I think Tim McKay can come back, yes.
Oh, wow.
And then I think it's Anthony Carter who would be a guard as well.
And Dawson Jaramillo.
Jaramillo comes back. Maybe he's a guard. But you have a guy like Correll that can come in and anchor that. The guy started 3 years at Notre Dame, and he came to Raleigh. They beat us, so I mean, like he's a solid guy, and you need that because I don't know if McMahon's going to come back.
No, not
so yeah, so it's a big deal for State, I think.
Yeah. No, I'll go ahead and put it. There's zero chance McMahon's coming back now, and actually too, because per some quotes I've been seeing, Dylan was actually a part of the recruiting process for Zeke actually. So in terms of actually getting Zeke to come to NC State, which we'll talk a little bit about that. But I mean, the one thing which I'll say though, real quick, because I think this is one of the biggest things that I mean, like if you're Grayson McCall, if you're Will Howard, if you're any guy that I mean is looking at in our collective money wise what we can offer. There's literally nothing that I'm saying like everything you want at NC State right now. If you're a quarterback that's in the Grayson McCall, Will Howard range, is exactly everything you're looking for right now. You have weapons, you have coaching staff that's solidified, that knows what they're doing, that can develop guys. I mean, again, look at Brian Armstrong this year. You got a guy that runs an exciting offense like Robert Nye. You got now. I mean, guys all over the offensive line, in the offensive line room that you feel really, really good about. Your main guy being Zeke Correll. I mean, again, just like you said, 3-year starter at Notre Dame, which I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, people talk about, well, who's DBU, who's QBU, who's running back U. Like Notre Dame is O-line U. I mean, like Notre Dame puts out offensive linemen, man. And so, I mean, for the guy to start 3 years at Notre Dame and come to NC State during his last year, I mean, That's insane to think about. So I mean, because just like you said, building on Jacarius Peak, building on maybe Anthony Belton, Anthony Carter, Dawson Jaramello, Valen Erickson. I mean, like, you're all of a sudden going from an offensive line room that you were a little bit worried about heading into the season, and all of a sudden, no, I feel pretty good right now, and I don't think we're done either. And I think there's some guys that can step out in this locker room. Some even freshmen from that came into the season as true freshmen that can even step up as well. So
you're bringing
I'm
guys
very excited
in.
About what TJ's doing.
Yeah, you're bringing guys in that could as freshmen too that could play. But I know there's guys. I think at one point I heard some names like Rico Jackson, and there's Kamen Smith. There's a younger guy that came in last year as a freshman I can think of. But it's to me, when you bring up if you have everything you could want at state, guys in the transfer portal are leaving for different reasons. Everybody's looking for it's either playing time, or it's getting paid, or it's they want to win and they're tired of winning and they're tired of losing, or whatever that might be. I think to your point, I think you can get all of those guys right now, particularly if you're a skill guy on offense right now. And I'm, I just kind of joke with that being, with being the receivers, you're cleaning out a whole lot, and you've got some running backs that have left. You've got a quarterback spot open. That's what gets me excited, because I think of, like, I'm a fantasy football guy too, and I like seeing those guys make the plays. But that's where I come back to a guy like Correll, who is like a foundational piece. I mean, you have to have a steady guy there. So,
well, especially a guy like Juice Vereen, Javonte Juice Vereen, that we haven't even talked about.
I mean, bring tight end position. Yeah.
I mean, like, I think that he's a guy that I think they're going to try and highlight next year and be like, all right, let's see what you can do. I mean, because there's no doubt he showed signs of man, this guy could be special, specifically against Notre Dame. But then you saw some moments where he made some freshman mistakes, against Virginia, against Clemson, where he didn't catch the ball hit him right in the chest, and so, things that he's got to build, like, he's got to learn from, he's got to build on this season. But I mean, like, looking at a guy like that we brought in at Dante Daniels, I mean, he's kind of the opposite, build of tight end than Juice, where Juice is more your Kyle Pitts kind of build,
right?
While Dante Daniels is more your, I think, like George Kittle build, where he's a guy that, he can be a very effective blocker, but he can also catch the ball as well and be. I mean, he's an athlete, so
I think he's like 6'6" and 250-ish pounds. I can't remember. Build. Yeah, he's a big dude, and I think I saw some quotes on him that he wants to come in and be a very physical player. I think that kind of goes right up with Dave Doran and 2J's mentality, or Goebel, who's teaching the tight ends there too. So it'll be good. I think he's a good guy. The guy I don't really know a whole lot about is Valen Erickson. But he's a guy who he was at Missouri for 1 year, and then he just transferred. He didn't play a whole lot. That, if everybody remembers, that's where Eli Drinkwitz is at, a former OC for State. The thing with the transfer portal, which is good, is now that he's here, he basically, now the rule is NCAA, you can transfer 1 year for free, basically, where you can go transfer and you don't have to sit out a year. You can go play immediately. But if you transfer any more than that, you have to sit out that year. So that's what I mean by that. He's basically, if he wanted to leave after this, he would have to really want to leave to go somewhere, because he would have to sit out unless he got a waiver, hashtag Tez Walker. So, but, he's a guy that I think he has the frame and the potential, I think, down the road to be a guy. I think he is also like 6'6" and 280 or somewhere around there, 275, 270. He's a big dude. And you don't know if he's bad or not. He was just a freshman, basically, at Missouri. And, I mean, he just has a lot of potential there. You work with him. And I think we'll see with him. You can't get excited. He's not a guy to get excited about right now. He's a guy, like, he could be something in another couple of years maybe. So,
well, and so literally here, making what I'm gonna do is I'm literally just gonna read like some quotes from Zeke, kind of just in a row, just kind of read through a couple of things, because they're there's some quotes in here that I think are absolutely fantastic. I love reading it. So these are all quotes here from Zeke Correll, offensive line transfer, redshirt senior from Notre Dame. So he said, and I quote, "The things I need to work on the most are the things Coach Tujay emphasizes and coaches hard. I want to use this season to impact the room, help lead, and be the best center in the country. All that is great. I needed to play for a coach that will emphasize technique. I sat in Coach Tujay's office and we just talked football. When I knew NC State was where I wanted to go for certain was after I talked to Dylan, aka Dylan McMahon. I was looking at Ole Miss, and Dylan McMahon had Coach Garrison too. It was great that he made it easy for me. Their players are awesome." And he said, I'm finally a part of an actual conference instead of candy ACC schedule. I'm excited.
Really? Wow.
We can play for a championship every year. That is something I want to be a part of. I want to help Coach Dorn and Coach Tujay get there. Like,
wow, that ACC comment is a little interesting because you would think that comes across like it's a negative from a player's perspective that he didn't get to do that. So
well, because again, I think with Notre Dame, if Notre Dame didn't have the name and the tradition and the wow factor of Notre Dame, I could easily say, doesn't it kind of suck? You only have one championship you could play for a year. Like, it's either a national championship or bust. Like, that's it.
Literally, yeah.
That's it. So, or a bowl championship, but I mean, like, there's no conference championship, which I feel like, because even as a fan, I would say, like, doesn't that kind of stink? Like you're basically like, you say, well, we're Notre Dame. Like, we always have bar. I'm like, well, but again, I mean, like the bar now isn't just Notre Dame and then everybody else. Now there's a whole lot of giants, which are actually even bigger right now than Notre Dame. So anyway, though, y'all. So with that being said, Wolfpack Nation, we'll take a quick pause right there, y'all, as we've ended part 1 here of the Tuffy Talk After Dark. We will pick up for part 2, y'all, as we continue on to specifically more talk about the basketball scene for women's and men's basketball, as well as to the announcement of our new soccer coach, men's soccer coach as well, which is awesome news as well. So with that being said, make sure to tune in for part 2, y'all, to make sure you don't miss it. Hit that free subscribe button, hit that notification bell. If you enjoy this conversation, if you're excited about NC State football for 2024, hit that like button and make sure, again, leave a comment as well, y'all, in terms of which player you most excited to see, or new face. Which new face are you most excited to see for 2024? Leave that down in the comments as well. And thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see y'all for part 2. Go Pack, y'all.